Hello, 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 Gav. We are here again. Got our streak alive. Episode 12. We just talked about it. So 12 in a row. That's good. We're excited and we're trying to get better. We were talking about before we started this idea that, AI is here. It's here. If you're not already thinking AI in everything you do in business and entrepreneurship, at your job, frankly, in life, um, you're starting to slowly fall behind a little bit. It's not too late by any stretch. There's just not saying that at all. But the sooner you get there, the better. You need to start leveraging this technology. It's too disruptive. And, we were just talking about how in a lot of the things we're doing recently, right? Like you've kind of had your own renaissance around AI recently.
I mean, I was thinking about that exact point earlier as well. And I remember when I worked with Sabio, a contact center and customer service systems integrator in the UK in around 2013, 12, it's like 10 ish years ago. They were introducing, for example, what did they call them at the time? Like live chat,
Ah,
live chat services into the call centers and customer service centers for agents to use. And I had a automated thing. I put in some prompt responses, response prompts, response, forget the phrase, responses in the database. And so the person would ask a question and they get an answer. If you remember those things at the time, they sucked. They were good from the side of the business because the promise was that this is going to help reduce your average handling time
hmm
and the amount of people you need on staff because a lot of it's going to be automated and we just have to train the database. But it was so narrow, it was so static, it was so exact. It wasn't dynamic like we have today, is my point, that it kind of died a slow death and companies abandoned that kind of project. Um, and now we have the natural language processing that completely revolutionizes it. Um, that's what's come up to me. One of the many things this morning of how things are they're like they stay the same, but then they're completely new and different.
hmm
And um, and there's so many things that were done before that are going to be just radically, radically different in the outcome and the results now. It's keeping up with this. It's mind boggling. It's going in all directions simultaneously.
Yeah. I'm just right now because I want to just get this done. I'm right here and I'm using Claude 2, the new Anthropic model. And I just finished, I just wrote an entire draft of my book, rough draft. And I've been working on this for a while, as I was telling you. I've got over 10 years, though, of just off and on stuff and notes and everything. I put in about 15 pages of information to start. And as I was telling you earlier, it's not like there's this idea that the internet's going to get just flooded with all this, content and everything. And I suppose that's probably still true, but it's not good. Let me tell you, it's not going to be good content out of the gate. You do have to work with it. I just finished or right here, but pretty much 4 hours. Right, it took me 4.5 hours to get this draft. And I can still already see a few chapters that are kind of lean. I'm definitely going to need to work on. It's not done, and it's not something I would even present to a friend yet, but it certainly is taking away months of writing time on my behalf because it's giving me these things, and all I had to do was kind of come up with the narratives and the arcs and the themes that I wanted, and it's weaving them in a story. It's a pretty cool thing. So what's the take home is that, and you've seen this consistently. I've been listening to a lot of you know sort of the people who built this stuff, a lot of podcasts with people who built this stuff on, from OpenAI to Google and DeepMind and everything, and they're all just saying this era is about AI will 10x you, right? Your job's not going to be taken by AI. It's going to be taken by someone who's doing 10 jobs, right? The person who can leverage AI to do the job of 10. They just won't need as many of you, whomever you are, at each position, right? Accountants, there'll be one accountant who can run a really complex AI system that will take in people's tax forms, that will be emailed or whatever, and they'll all run through, and they'll probably be doing some quality control checking here and there and whatnot and refining, but like they'll do the work of 10 accountants easily, you know? That's how it'll be. I think you'll see the same thing in law, right? AI is so good at this. It's so good at cranking out contracts, especially a lot of the cookie cutter stuff, right? You won't need 10 paralegals. You'll need one, for probably an entire firm, maybe that can just crank out all the low grade stuff. So, but there's also these unique business opportunities in that we can take things and put them in new forms, right? Like we were talking about this idea of people don't like to read books. So we can put it in a chatbot. Chatbot's the book, right? It's going to give the information, right? It's like fundamentally, what do you want from a book? You want the information. You want the information available to you when you might need it, right? So the traditional way is when I got to read the whole damn book, kind of hopefully upload it in my brain. And then hopefully again in the future when I need it or now I'll use that information. But in many ways, you probably don't need all the information in a book. Probably need whatever parts of it, 50%, 40%, I don't know, it depends. And you kind of need it when you need it, which might not be right then. And are you definitely going to remember what you read in the book 6 months ago? Maybe not. But if you had it in a WhatsApp, you could just, oh, yeah, I have the one about, business strategy. Let me get in there and ask it some questions, right? And then when you get into the idea that these things can learn and be connected to back ends and then sort of become custom to you, I think you're onto a new layer of convenience, right? A new layer. It's interesting.
And customization, personalization. I remember just about my first job. My first job in central London was at a money broker's called Prebon Marshall Yamani. They don't exist anymore. I don't know when they folded, but it was kind of like trading rooms of actual people sitting at actual desks on actual telephones, talking to their counterparts at different money brokers and banks around the world, and swishing 100 million this way and then 50 million that way, and the different interest rates and the different lengths of time. And I was like just back office admin and helping take the deal tickets and enter them into the system and sending confirmations. And it was like this whole engine. Um, and then you see in some of the movies of the New York Stock Exchange, all of the men shouting in the deal room and doing their finger movements and counting whatever it is they're doing. And then you see modern high frequency trading rooms that are silent,
Silent.
that are not stuffed full of people.
No.
There's PhD geeks sitting, not even touching a thing, just watching a few screens and watching the computers do the trading based on what the PhD has helped to program. The quants, the quantitative analysts, they're customizing the program, but they are watching and observing and checking for risks or edge cases, things not happening as expected, and they'll make refinements. But it's completely different ball game from just a few years ago, let alone when I was in pre-bond. It was like, I don't know, 20-ish something years ago. This is the change in transformation.
Mhm.
And so, and back to exactly what you said, just my excitement of being able to have access to the world's information based on filtering down to my core values and interests. That's very exciting to me. You mentioned before this call that you go on Twitter and you got to read 50 different tweets before you find a few that you actually are interested in that are worth your while. Imagine if Twitter gave you filtering criteria that you could connect your own
Mm.
your own AI assistant to, and your AI assistant knows the kind of stuff you're into and filters Twitter's algorithm based on your personalized algorithm so that you get the Twitter that you want. For sure, this is going to happen, whether it be on whether it happens on Twitter or not. If Twitter doesn't do that, it will be outcompeted by a platform that does. So customization, personalization, just the amount of automation, and just things looking very different to what they have done until now.
No, I think you're right, and those are key words, right? Because if you need to be thinking that way, right? I'm sure so many people are sitting right now going, what kind of ideas can I come up with? What can I do with this? And there was a bit of an early gold rush. I think we talked about that yesterday, where there's things you could do real quick. They were very timely. If like you could get to it first before anybody else, it was a bit of a parlor trick, a game show that you could get out there and people would dig it, but it didn't have any staying power because it didn't really solve a problem. It was just more like it was a magic trick, right? We're past magic tricks at this point. If you're not seeing it, it's out there. Trust me, people are doing all the dumb shit. But if you want to do something really powerful, longer lasting, something that can actually make a difference, which from our perspective, we hope we're not the type of business people who just take any idea and make money, or I'd be selling drugs. Uh, um, it's just think of it in these terms. What could I possibly make more convenient? Or what is it that I do every day that's incredibly inconvenient and I wish it wasn't? Like you're saying, I think Twitter could be okay if I didn't have to weave through all the bullshit messages. I don't like social media for social media's sake. It's not that interesting to me. I don't care how many likes I get and all that outside of business reasons. I care about conversation, right? That's why I always liked message boards back in the day because it felt
Mm,
like if somebody had something to say, they had to take the time to put it out there. They wouldn't bother putting trash because it just didn't seem to be how it went. Those kind of people just were lurkers. But when all it takes is this tiny bit of just LOLs, emoji, just to put your face out there or whatever the hell it is you're doing, well, it's easy and people will do it. But if I could filter through all of that and try to get to the actual conversations, yeah, that would be very valuable to me. Or the customization element. I'm very much obsessed right now with the AI assistant because one thing I have hoped for my entire life was either to get rich enough or for technology to get there so I don't have to do mundane things.
mhm,
And everybody probably wants that if they can get it, but I can't tell you, to me, it's painful. I hate it. I used to have
mhm.
to insurance bill for my acupuncture practice, and I would leave work angry by the end of the day. There's just something about my mind and the ADHD I have and whatever else that comes together and just hates paperwork with a passion. Or there's other very tedious things I actually like doing that most people hate, like corporate structure for some reason. Like I could read about that all day and come up with different ideas and look at the jurisdictions and read really boring shit. But if something could like do all my email, pay all my bill, budget all my money, do my taxes, so on and so forth. Oh, all day long. Like that's just a dream. I'd honestly feel like a billionaire. I think travel arrangements, right? All that stupid mundane shit. Where because there's a part of me that's like, what do they call it? Like a min maxer to some degree, and a bit of a biohacker. Of course, I want the best deal for the hotel I can get. But if I've got to look at kayak and this and that and this to get it, it's suddenly not worth it anymore. It's not worth it. Like it's lost all value to me. Coupons at a supermarket just shoot me in the face. Have no interest. I'm not weaving through bullshit coupon sites. Like it would drive me to, it would make me so angry. It wouldn't be worth the 20 cents I could save. But if something could do that for me, of course, lovely, do it, get the coupons, do my shopping online and have it sent to my house. Yes, I loved COVID. I loved COVID for that reason right there. Everything was getting dropped off. I was doing my therapy online. I was seeing my doctor online. It was a beautiful thing. What can I say, Gab? I'm a bit of a hermit.
Well, it's funny. I thought I was the only one that hates paperwork. So with the passion. So
No,
that's
it's like a
funny.
deep
So
passion.
So maybe there's more of us, and
Probably are.
we can find some solutions. But yeah, this personalization and I guess the sad thing is that a lot of people are going to continue suffering beyond the need for them to suffer because they're just not going to tune in to the opportunity of these systems that will
Mhm.
become available. You and I, we're kind of meddling now with how do we build some of this stuff for ourselves and clients. Other people will still be, doing the manual labor stuff that an admin in 5 or 10 years time when they really don't, when they really don't need to, but because they didn't tune into the innovation. So I got here, don't be obsolete is one thing.
Mhm.
Um,
You don't have a
but
choice anymore, folks. You can't afford to be a Luddite. You can't afford to stick your head in the sand. This isn't VCRs. This isn't home entertainment systems where you just don't want to deal with all the wires. Yeah, your downside is you don't get surround sound in that scenario. Okay. Not the end of the world though. For most people, maybe a TV speaker's great. Me, I love surround sound. So I learned how to wire a surround sound system. But now the downside is no job, guys. It's no job, and it's going to happen faster than you think. And it's happening to roles that everybody didn't think, because everybody thought, see, for a while, robotics was much farther ahead of AI, right? Automation mechanically, like self checkouts at grocery stores and department stores, right? Oh, now we only need one person to stand there, make sure nobody just takes a bundle and steals and runs off. But hey, everybody can run a scanner, right? How hard is it to scan a barcode and put shit in a bag? Sure. So everybody thought like, oh no, supermarket jobs and cashiers and all that stuff's going to go. Well, no, now it's knowledge workers. Like we're the most at risk. Lawyers. I mean, whoever thought lawyers and accountants were going to be some of the first, ranks to get thinned? Well, I'm telling you right now, they absolutely are. And if not by the fact that, the one lawyer who leverages the technology can do the work of 10, I'll tell you right now, unless I'm on trial for like murder, I'm probably never talking to a lawyer again. I mean, there's no reason. Most of the documents I've ever needed were just corporate bullshit stuff. And I know better than most. They don't actually protect you in the situations you wish they did. You'd still have to go to trial. So I'm not going to go crazy for terms of service or a partnership agreement. They're all about the same. ChatGPT will do me just fine. It passed the bar, guys. It's just the same as your lawyer, except smarter and cheaper and faster. Am I going to go to crazy accountants ever again? No. QuickBooks is leveraging this stuff already. Their online TurboTax thing is going to be better than any accountant this year. This year, they're already saying there's no way your accountant's better than QuickBooks with AI, right? So, nah, they're gone first, folks. They're gone first. Traders, I
that
think, to your point, are gone pretty fast.
that is crazy. Still, so I remember like marketing automation has been a thing also
Mhm,
for 10 plus years. I remember the first publicly available email autoresponder program. This is way back. Um, and so it's funny that today it's like waves of automation. There was also robotic process automation, RPA. I did research on that for a client in 2018, looking to build like low code, no code application platform that would help automate particular functions in a business. And
mhm,
then we found like a whole industry we didn't know it existed called RPA, robotic process automation. This is the kind of stuff you train a algorithm to go and like do a series of steps on the internet and record like scraping data, taking screenshots, optical character recognition, um, entering details on a form, like this whole long sequence of things that then becomes your robotic process automation, and that obviously saves a lot of time and more efficient and accuracy and whatever. So it's not like this stuff is new
mhm.
in a lot of ways, and it's and it's been increasingly used. At the same time, a lot of places do everything manually still. So it's,
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm in that space thinking, how fast or how slow, and are they going to become like separate little universes of how things get done, the slow group and the fast group, because they're using a different paradigm of technology, and maybe it just fits people's personality or their propensity for stuff, or they just haven't been shown it. They haven't asked the question. They haven't found exit strategy podcast yet, and this kind of stuff to help bring them up to speed. That's where I'm at. It's like this spectrum of different ways that people would do it. It's like um, it's like being first to market. It's funny. It's like sometimes that really they
No.
feel like, oh, we're too late.
Mhm.
Have you ever had that experience, Dom? You feel, oh, I could have done this thing, like I should have done it 5 years ago,
Yep.
and now it's like everyone's doing. Not everyone's doing it.
No.
The markets are very rarely as saturated as you think they are, especially after only a year or two
Yeah, right.
in to the massive paradigm change. So yeah, I don't know, reflections. I guess that's where I'm at right now.
Well, you are right. It's not going to roll out uniformly. It never does, right? And I think sometimes the problem that lulls us in is knowing which leap is going to have the impact because they don't always. Like a stage is it is just as important to the eventual outcome sometimes, but it doesn't actually change anything in the interim. Like the example I was saying, coming up with self-service, barcode scanners at department stores didn't change everything overnight, but automate that with some AI and some optical recognition, and all of a sudden you don't need anybody in the store anymore. That's the leap. And it doesn't mean the scanners weren't an important part. They were. Another example I would say is actually low code, no code. Everybody thought that was going to change everything, but I'll tell you, man, as someone who's wished I could code or find an alternative for 20 years now, um, I thought low code, no code was gonna be the way to go. It's not. You still have to know a lot about just algorithms and the way things are supposed to be set up, and you have to be able to think like a programmer and all the steps and everything. But I'm telling you, when I can put in a chat GPT, build this Zapier integration for me, that's changed everything. Now I'm using it because
Mm.
something's able to do that and do that type of thinking I don't quite know how to do and don't want to spend 5 hours figuring out because now it's suddenly not worth it for me. Well, now it is. Or coding is a hell of a lot easier when ChatGPT can literally give me code. I can try it. If it doesn't work, I can ask ChatGPT and it will fix it.
Exactly.
That's low code to me. That's no code in my world because I'm not coding. I'm just talking back and forth with something and shaping it to make what I want in the end, right?
Yeah, config, right? If you've ever been into a Google Cloud environment or AWS, Amazon Web Services, there's like literally thousands of buttons.
Oh God, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if you can just like chatbots can streamline, if you've got the question and you know where to point a question, then you can get pretty darn close to an answer probably with natural language processing with access. The more uh the more fractionalized systems become, um yeah, I don't know.
Well,
It's
just thinking, right? Like 80%, the 80/20 rule applies almost everywhere. And so if I say to a chatbot that understands this, I need a configuration on AWS to host the back end of a chatbot. I probably want the one that 80% of the world wants. So it can easily make that guess. And it can do that. Or Amazon can do that in advance and almost have like templates ready and just with another few words, tweak it to handle like another 10% of the. So you're down to like the 5 or 10% that really requires the guy who knows how to move all the buttons, right? Like
Mhm.
those are rare, rare instances. But that stuff's happening now and that's changing everything. And when I'm at, all I was going to finish on my thought was, folks, this is the leap. I promise you. This isn't the interim leap. This is the leap. This is one of those leaps that's changing everything. It's happening. The stuff you thought was far off isn't. It's here. The stuff you thought couldn't be done, it can be. It's here. It's not full AGI, robots in your face taking over the world shit. But it is massive, catastrophic job loss stuff eventually if we don't evolve, if you don't evolve, and we just don't find, I don't know, other ways to occupy our time, because a lot of work can be done already by these things. And it'll only, you know, people who are going to, grab this tech, they're going to just start applying it over and over and over again. And you're going to just see entire job functions, entire job positions obsoleted.
I have another slightly different theme for exit strategy about longevity. I listened to David Sinclair podcast
Mm.
just yesterday. The latest there, if you're looking for, so not only are we going to be jobless, but we're going to be living for hundreds of years
Yeah.
jobless. doesn't
Everlasting poverty.
yeah. It doesn't paint a rosy picture from that perspective. But
Wrong
let's roll.
timing. Longevity. Hold
Yeah,
off.
sorry. Let's roll with it just for a second. So he's saying that they're playing around with genes now in mice, and they're going to start with non-human primates like imminently. And he expects human trials in the next couple of years for technology that they are messing with I think it's like 3 different genes that reset to 80% backwards in terms of youthfulness, right? So this is people start to go, they get bad eyesight as they age. It will reset 80% of that to youthful
Oh
eyesight.
my God.
And the same with various, they're experimenting in mice again to date. But every time they try a different thing. He describes it as pretty much the same mechanism, which means that it's easy to have a general effect with fewer variables or actions, inputs. And he says there's no side effects. They haven't found any harm with playing around with these 3 specific genetic switches. And he says that once you make the change, it's baked in the cake, and then you have like antibiotic to activate it. So in another 80 years, when your eyesight's starting to go bad, you have this particular antibiotic and it reverses you back to like when you were 20 again. This is what he's saying they're achieving today with mice, starting with non-human primates now, and human trials coming in 2 years. That speaks very well to poverty for for forever. If we've lost our jobs but we become immortal, like it's a whole other way that life is about to be disrupted and get different.
Wow. Yeah, I'd heard that too. By and large, the consensus that I had heard was even Gen X, my generation, our generation, has a fairly good shot at immortality. If you don't die before 75 or so at this point, in the next 20 to 25 years, that's what I've seen. That it's something like that, and this is like an average of people in the fields saying, "Yep,
Well,
15 to 25 years from now, give or take, maybe as long as some say 40 or 50, but we are on its tail, right? Let's put it that way. And sometimes you get these deserts. Don't get me wrong, they could run up against something and it slows down. It happened with AI. That's why a lot of people thought AI was so far off. Is ChatGPT got lucky. I just read the story about what happened there. And basically they found the needle in the haystack. That's what happened. Is Google's team landed on something, and then one of their guys said, "Well, what happens if we throw a lot at this?" Because they did it with a lot less data. They threw a lot more data, and that's when they found out these secondary characteristics emerged that they didn't program. Right? This isn't an algorithm. This was just an experiment
Wow.
Happened with the neural network and LLMs, which were doing fuck all to this point. But all of a sudden, when you throw 500 billion parameters at it, it kind of comes alive and it starts learning and doing things you didn't coding. They didn't put that in, guys.
Mm.
That was not in the specs. They just were testing, fucking around with it when they realized this thing was kind of alive and better than they thought. And they said, well, shit, let's ask it to code. And it did. They didn't know that. That was not programmed. So sure, now they're refining some of them to get better at it and so on. But so this is the thing. We fumbled, but we took a huge leap. And that's why all of a sudden everybody's revising their predictions on AGI because they're going, well, this kind of is AGI. I mean, it might not be artificial general intelligence, and people define that a little differently. It might not be, human level intelligence, but it's already got more information in it than any human being on earth, even combined, probably. And it's doing things and learning things itself. So, huh. I mean, if we can throw a lot more power at this thing and another 10x of parameters, it could get interesting. And they've already found a way to get past parameters now with this sparse network shit, which I don't quite understand yet. But basically, this new tech they've uncovered already that's supposed to be in GPT-5 is it doesn't have to be an endless parameters game because apparently we're kind of running to the end of that. Like there's only so much data in the world you can get a hold of, right? That's useful at least, right? There's reams and reams of like bullshit data for sure, but the
Mm.
accounting numbers and endless files of accounting numbers don't do much for an AI. But yeah, they come up with this like sparse mapping thing of the data, and that's allowing it to not need as much. And the big one's going to be that we're going to be able to put in all multimedia. So to your point of the chatbot, we didn't even get to before the call that I was saying I think would be interesting is you set up a chatbot for somebody based on an idea of a book or a course, you could put short videos in it and it
Yeah.
could bring those up for them. So they could still get some of that video interaction, right? You could put little lessons in your bot. You could put visuals. And that's GPT-5 is going to have, I mean, GPT-4 was supposed to, and it may before it finishes its iterations. I mean, already can take documents and look at pictures and do some stuff, but like audio, all the media, audio, video, text, is all going to be in these things. And so nobody knows though what they're going to do when they can absorb 100 million videos. They haven't trained models on that yet. They've trained them on images. So it's interesting. A lot happening.
So we don't know our demographic of our audience yet. We're like hairy kids ourselves. Gonna get the teenagers and the older folks and whatnot. But here's a little segment for the Gen Zers. You mentioned Gen X. For the Gen Zers, um, um, so Brian Johnson, the guy that's developing this blueprint, he's reversed his age by like half. He's 45. He's got the body of a 20-something-year-old, as actually recorded by data. He spends $2 million a year
Yep.
on 30 scientists who analyze everything in his body. He's got a 17-year-old son, and they're pretty much the same metabolic profile and like chronological age. He's now has a T-shirt that says "Don't die." Right? Don't die. And in the next year or so, with the civil wars that we don't really want a political show, because then we're going to lose 50% of a potential audience one way or another. But let's just agree that things aren't looking pretty in politics today.
No, no.
If you go to riots and you're getting rowdy, then you might. One of the guys I listen to, he says, "Do stupid things and win stupid prizes." So if you want to protect yourself, if you want to not die, if you want this opportunity to see what emerges on the other end, like Gen Zers, all they've known is mayhem.
Sure.
They're so young that they can't remember a golden time of the economy at all, probably. And they've grown up in COVID.
Yeah.
And now they're going to get civil war, potentially World War III this decade. what I'm saying to that segment is look beyond that, because
Yeah, don't die.
once the empire collapses, then we'll have a chance for something extraordinary and amazing. And with all of this technology that we are developing, technology is still accelerating. Longevity, biomedical, the computer, virtual reality, all of this stuff. Um, the future, we could say, is going to be absolutely incredible. We just have to get
Mhm.
through the next maybe 5 or 10 years. So don't die. Put that on your t-shirt. Put it as a, like, stamp it on your forehead in imaginary. Don't really do it, Gen Z folks.
Do it.
Don't tattoo your
Do it.
forehead. Don't die.
Do
But
it.
just imagine, just imprint it in your spirit. Look after yourselves and each other, because once we get through this mess, things are going to be really, really extraordinary. And you guys can I'm watching YouTube videos of 22-year-olds that have got the energy that I remember when I was 22.
Mhm.
Well, I didn't have the technology that they have today. I didn't have ChatGPT when I was 22. I had like Alta Vista search engine.
Mhm.
Right? So the expansive innovation from these young geniuses, as long as they stay out of trouble and as long as they're not mentally warped by the craziness of this current decade, which is our fault, people like you and I, our age, the situation we're in is pretty much folks like our fault. Um, the younger generation, uh, is gonna do wonderful things for us, and they've got a lot to look forward to. So that segment for Gen Z is that was it. That's it.
Alright. Well, I think we should wrap it up on that. Don't die, right? Don't die.
Don't die.
Bye, guys.
Bye.